And the calibration for acoustics is insane, right? It's like you have a little thing that looks like a silencer for a pistol, and you put it on top of your microphone, and that thing is supposed to be calibrated to put out like a 110 decibel sine wave or something like that, and then you tell your whatever room EQ is it or whatever software you're using, hey, that's a 110 decibel sine wave, so calibrate yourself to that, and then know what every other decibel is that's going to come into that based on this information that I'm giving you from this piece of hardware. And then like it just like you just calibrate all the way down the line basically.
Welcome to the Mr. Bill Podcast. I'm Anand Harsh, editor-in-chief of TheUnz.com, Bill's manager and warden, and I'm a little sick right now, so hopefully you're enjoying these delicious tones. Today's guest is Matt Simmers. He was the producer and engineer behind Terra Vita and Hot Pink DeLorean and the solo project Woofax. He also works with PK Sound, the much-lauded Canadian mega audio brand. They've powered some of the biggest events in bass music with their rumbling subs and are affiliated with some of the highest profile acts and festivals on the planet. The guys get nerdy on sound systems. We're up and running on MrBillsTunes.com for this podcast. By subscribing for a low rate, you can get the podcast a week early and support the show. And if you bump up to the regular tier, you get all the things that hardcore Abletuneers get, like tutorials, sample packs, streams, project files, and more. Bill's been adding more micro tutorials to his HCA feed, and you can still get this podcast in your podcatcher of choice if you subscribe through the site. Kill Bill, the collaborative project with Mr. Bill and Kill Smith, just announced its debut EP will be out in April. The duo hits Indianapolis on April 21st, Portland on April 22nd, Seattle on April 23rd, Manchester, New Hampshire on April 29th, and San Diego on May 5th, as well as DC on June 1st. Bill's doing solo sets at Disco Pussy in Vegas on May 3rd and Soundwell in Salt Lake City on May 7th. Both of those shows are with Ben and Canty of Z. On Sunday, May 8th, he's headlining Soulfest in Florida, Bigfoot Electro is on Memorial Day weekend in Tennessee, and Tribal Connection is in Ohio on June 3rd. More Kill Bill and solo Mr. Bill dates are coming soon. Tickets at Linktree/Mr. Bill's Tunes. Keeping it tight today, enjoy Bill's chat with Matt Simmers.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you are listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you're 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 listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast. Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast. Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
And then just my sensitivity here. Check. Yeah, this is a little quiet. Testing. Gain up. I don't know, it seems quite quiet for some reason. Am I quiet coming on your end?
No, you're a good volume for me.
Okay. Well,
when you say it's quiet, does it just look quiet in Audacity?
No, I'm just looking at, I'm like minus 18 in the meter right now.
I'm like between minus 18 and minus 12. So that's
okay. That's perfect then.
Yeah, so long as the noise is low, like the signal to noise ratio is good, which it sounds like it is, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm just using an SM58, so it's
Nice.
nothing fancy, but good
sound
enough for
man.
a conversation. I mean, there's a reason why they're used all the time in for live applications and on stage. I think it's also just because you can drop them a lot and they survive.
Yeah, they're robust. I feel like a lot with touring, most likely, like everything in life, people start to preference convenience over like what is actually the best thing for them, right? Like, sure, like live, there probably is better microphones. Like, I don't know, the SM7B might even be better live, you know? It's like, it is a dynamic microphone. But yeah, probably they do actually look a lot more fragile.
It's basically what's going to survive. It's funny you mentioned that too, because a lot of the applications for like some of the subwoofers that like I would love to see go on tour it's a lot more difficult to have them go on tour than having just dual 18s that pack in a truck and like work really well. So it's almost like more advantageous sometimes to have just a really good dual 18 subwoofer. Maybe something that's not even horn loaded, something that's just simple and you can pack it easily into a truck, and it's just reliable and works well, rather than having some crazy experimental huge subwoofer or something that I would love to see. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love to see, a giant subwoofers, but like for with PK we have our 30-inch subwoofers that are on tour with Hamilton, the play, the touring play, and it works great for them. Mainly because I think they're when they set up and where they're setting up their system, they get to do several runs in the same building. Whereas if you're like a touring artist, sometimes it's very difficult if you're bringing a sound system with you to have 30-inch subwoofers to take with you venue to venue, because you're literally moving every single night. So sometimes it's a smarter solution might be to have just a dual 18 subwoofer or something like that, depending on your application. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, and a dual 18 equals 36 inches of sub or something like that. Does that basically put out the same? Did I do? Yeah. Does that basically put out the same power and volume and everything as a 30-inch sub would, now that you've got like two of them?
Well, there's a lot of contributing factors to that, because it has to do with.
Feel free to explain them like in the most depth possible, because the audience is pretty audio heavy.
Well, for this is in my experience. I mean, my job at PK is loudspeaker design, so a lot of that is testing speakers for their ability to withstand like a lot of intense playback. Right. It's not just making something that goes, oh yeah, I'm making this speaker, it's going to sound great. But if it doesn't last like through the rain and through transport and through touring, that's a big, and especially through heavy North American dubstep, which is in itself a test of stress. Because if we do, for example, when Excision takes our stuff on tour, we need to know that those speakers are going to last. So there isn't necessarily an exact equal correlation between the size of a driver that's inside a box and how much SPL you're going to get out of the box. There's the amplifier is a contributing factor. The box itself. For example, if you have like any kind of like dual sound source, if you have a sound source that is coupling with itself. So, for example, like if I have two drivers in a box that are moving together in phase and coupling, we should
explain those things, right? So
shouldn't we?
So two speakers moving in phase means that so for starters, the way a speaker works in layman's terms is it just goes through a series of pushing out and sucking in, right? And it just does that like X amount of times per second to reproduce oscillators, the sound that we're listening to, which is an oscillation basically of a waveform between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz, and coupling both of them running at the same phase. It's important always when using the word phase, I think, to be like, well, that's just a measurement of time. Because I think a lot of times when you say the word phase, people are like, oh man, that's like a crazy scientific word or whatever.
Yeah, like I saw that on Star Trek, and then they flew the Enterprise through an asteroid.
Yeah, and then they phased or something. But yeah, it's literally...
they use a phaser. Yeah, no, it's...
Right. It just means when the left speaker pushes out, the right speaker is pushing out with it at the exact same time. And when it pulls out, same deal.
Yes. And you can even, see that, like if you were to look at zoom in really far in like a low frequency waveform, like a kick drum or something, and you can see it, the arc go up and then come back down and go underneath, and when it hits the middle line and I'm talking about an impulse response. If you're looking at like an impulse response, that as it moves up and down, you can actually tell whether it's going up or going down. Basically pulling the speaker in or out. Right. But with that, so there's like a few things that are like kind of rough estimations about loudness levels that you can derive from that. So if you have two sources that are playing together and coupling, in other words, playing exactly in the same phase, like as each other, they will roughly add about 6 dB. But that has to do, but you have to think about that in a way that's
exponential.
You're exponential. So, like for example, if I have one box, one speaker.
We should also explain this too, because like this is another thing I feel like people get kind of confused about is exponentiality versus linearity in sound. So
yes,
linearity means like if you had one speaker and it was producing 10 decibels, then you add another speaker, it would now be producing 20. And if you had a third, it would be 30 and 40 and so on. That would be linear, but sound doesn't work that way. It works exponentially.
Yeah.
So
it also doesn't work linear in a frequency level too, because there's certain frequencies that become more pronounced in coupling with loudspeakers than others. So there's actually a different type of compensation you have to do as you add more and more loudspeakers, specifically if you're doing a line array, which is like, if for people don't know what that is, that's basically if you go to a big concert and you see those large stacks of speakers that are hung coming all the way down. And so like, for example, if I had 4 speakers in a line array and I added another 4, that would add that roughly that amount that I wanted. But if I wanted to...
Wait, 6 dB, right? Because it's just double the amount that you had.
It's just double the amount, yeah. But if you wanted to
not
keep
double
that,
the dB.
But if you wanted to keep that going, you'd have to add 8, right?
To add 8 would just add 10 dB, right?
So you add 4. If you had 4, then you added another 4. You double it. Then you have to add another 8 if you want to go up.
Wait, and double?
Right,
double just means that we perceive it as twice as loud, right? Because obviously the number of decibels is not going to go from 80 to 160.
No. I'm saying double the amount of speakers. I'm saying you double the amount of speakers. So if I have 4 speakers and I add another 4, right, then you have 8. Now, if I wanted to go up that same amount of decibel level that I just added, or
right,
dBSPL, you'd have to add
8.
You can't add another 4. You have to add another 8.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yep.
So that's the exponential that we were talking about, right? But yeah, so that also goes back from within a subwoofer, right? Like, so if I had a dual cabinet, right? The having 2 drivers in it they're going to couple, and they're going to add more dBSPL to the box itself, right? But it depends on also how a box is made, right? Because if a box is made with certain types of ports, right?
The ports are just like the holes at the back of the speaker or the front.
Well, you can have them travel either way, right? You could have them travel in and have the air escape out of the back or out of the front, and depending upon how those are designed, will greatly affect the way the box responds with its frequency, especially. And even just adding it's amazing the physics that go into like designing speakers. It's still like, for me, I'm still kind of learning that whole aspect of it, because I'm more so doing like DSP sound design and things like that, like toward the end of it. And I come from more of from a studio field, I did music for 10 years. I toured doing bass music in North America for a long time, and doing a lot of like engineering and mastering and things like that. So going into this field and learning just like how different you can change the sound of a box just by moving up like a physical piece in front of it is pretty cool. Like, just to see like what you can do by just, what if I take this different material and then test the speaker again. So we do the way we do a lot of tests with speakers, with loudspeakers in general, is by playing sweeps through them. So it's actually not as interesting as being able to sit and listen to music all day. There's a lot of just pink noise and sweeps, and we do. It's called.
We should explain those things too. So pink noise is just full frequency noise, and you're obviously playing that through the speaker to make sure you're hitting all of the frequencies, so you can measure all of the frequencies of the speaker. And a sweep is just a sweep from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz for the exact same reason, kind of, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So like a pink, I would say like a pink noise. Well, there's a lot of different types of noises, but like a pink noise is a balanced amount of energy through the human hearing spectrum per octave. And white noise would be more per frequency amount of energy, which is cool. And they're like some of the most, like when it comes to like writing music, they're two of the most useful things, if you ask me, for being able to like, you can use them, and you can also use them as like analysis tools. They're amazing. I love using them for that. And I love adding them to percussive elements too, in production I mean, there's nothing better than being able to have like something that is going to cut through every part of the hearing spectrum added as a transient in the background of a percussive hit. Right.
Yeah. I think all that high frequency energy, it's like it's how we perceive like energy in music, almost like subs and really high frequencies, I think. And mixed in key works this way. Like I did a test one day to try and get the energy level to 10. And it turned out the thing that would allow me to get the energy level to 10 in mixed in key was just turning my hi-hats up a lot.
Really?
And just putting, tons of like white noise on shit and distorting things. And
that's interesting. So they have a thing in mixed in key that basically measures like a energy level and kind of just like algorithmically tells you like, oh, this is like a certain level.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't used mixed in key. Usually what I do is I'll just do relative key. I'll just play something on a piano and find like the root key of like whatever song it is. But I've never used any of those other features. Those are really cool. Although I do know that a lot of producers guys will use just Record Box or Serato, and they'll look at the waveform itself, and they'll look at the color and the shape of it to kind of get an idea if they like the way it looks, which I think is interesting.
I never used the energy level in mixed in key. I don't care about it. I just was curious as to like what it was measuring, and it was measuring high frequencies. And also whenever I'm like, oh man, this track's like not hitting hard enough, and like it doesn't, the sub is hitting where it should be and all that kind of stuff. Then I'm always like, I should just add hi-hats or something, or cymbals, or like white noise. And then usually I'm like, all right, that's like, it sounds like very clear now, and like everything sounds defined, just because hi-hat, like a good hi-hat in a track will make such a difference.
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. Although for me, I've been finding that I start rolling them off more now. Like I used to roll them off lower, like 6K, and now I'm finding I'm rolling them off like even like almost at 10K sometimes, like depending upon the track. Just to make room for some of the like more delicate stuff at the top of like the synth mud pie like sound or something.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting actually. Yeah, like if you take all of your top cymbals and stuff and cut the high frequencies out of them, which is kind of counterintuitive, it leaves room for like maybe the like snappy transient of the kick to have like its own space up there and stuff, doesn't it?
That's true. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me though, I'm saying like I'm rolling them off like I like doing them higher. Sometimes what I'll do is when I'm listening to a track at like the final mastering stages, I'll just take like on the master EQ and do a high pass and really go up to the top, like around, I don't know, like maybe like even 5K and up. And just listen to see like if I can hear where the kick drum, like do I hear the kick drum? I mean, obviously is the snare too loud in this area? Because is the snare too snappy, right? That's why I tend to like to use pink noise more so on a kick drum if I'm layering it.
What is your artist name, by the way?
Woofax.
Woofax, like WOOFAX.
FAX, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll have to check it out after the call.
I used to be the songwriter for Terra Vita, which you probably heard of.
Yeah, interesting. So wait, Terra Vita, I met one guy once at a show who was from Terra Vita. He's like a tall dude.
They're both, the two other guys are tall dudes. They're both tall. They're both over 6 feet. I was the short guy in it up until 2015. I founded that group of those guys. We split in 2015. And then I started working for PK about a year after that, but always continued to write music. And it wasn't obviously, not everybody bands have dramatic breakups sometimes. We didn't have the best breakup, but after a little bit of like kind of online fighting and online posting of things, I just decided they're just let them do their thing, and they're just letting me do my thing, and we kind of just walked our separate ways, and they're kind of doing a totally different thing now. I'm really not. What they're focused on musically and genre wise isn't the same kind of thing I'm really focused on. I'm more looking at what the future holds for 80 to 90 BPM bass music, and that's kind of the stuff that I'm making. And I think they're still more like kind of focused on, like, I think they're on Disciple Records now, and they're making tracks with Figure and doing that kind of thing. But I just decided to kind of just let I'll let the music speak for itself, and kind of see where that takes things. But it's always strange to have a thing that you were in for so long and have it grow as like a project. And it's your baby. It's like a plant you've grown into a tree, and then kind of just walk away from it. It's a little weird.
I mean, somebody did that in Ganja White Night. Ganja White Night used to be 3 people. Now
oh, really?
Just 2. Yeah. I think the other guy left pretty early though, like 2010 or something like that. But yeah, he must be spewing now. They're selling out like the biggest shows ever.
I mean, for me, I've always found that, like, as long as I can keep making, the important thing is making music. So as long as I can keep making music and expressing myself, I don't really care if I'm doing it for a living or not.
I think it's almost better in some ways, right? To have like your financial security not necessarily hinge on the music you're making, because I feel like that can affect it a lot. Like if you're like, oh man, I need to like make rent this month, and therefore I need to like play a bunch of shows, and the shows in my local area are all rhythm shows, but I want to do music for a living, then I mean the equation in your head starts to go like, well, maybe I should make rhythm music, right? Like even though I don't maybe necessarily want to focus on that long term, or like think that that's the coolest shit right now or anything like that. It's very easy, I think, to be allured in some way like that, and then be like, well, now I'm a fucking rhythm producer, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. And on top of that, it's also like when you have a market that's oversat, even though there's one thing that's selling, you just end up inevitably having a very oversaturated market for whatever that style is. Right. And then you're just kind of adding to that pool, and then you're kind of fighting to be heard in this noise. Whereas you're not necessarily even being true to like what you want to do and want to make. There was a time when I really, really was infatuated and interested in extremely interested in North American bass music in the dubstep kind of realm. But yeah, I mean, it's different. It's so different now for me. Like thinking about the stuff that I want to listen to now compared to like what it was back in like 2010. I mean, I'm sure that happens to everybody. I mean, you evolve as a person, and like what your interests are really. I mean, how do you feel like from what you were listening to in 2010? What do you think?
So in 2010, I would have been listening to, I think, a lot of Psytrance and Square Pusher and Aphex Twin and, a bit of metal. There really wasn't even that much like glitch hop at that time. I mean, the closest thing probably would have been Tipper.
So what's your favorite Aphex Twin album?
I mean, I probably just got to say drugs, right? Like that's
Yeah.
That's
a
how
tough
do you
one.
pronounce it?
Drug use.
Drug.
I think it's supposed to be like drug use, isn't it? Someone told me that once. That it's supposed to be drug use, like drug use. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. That's like one of those. Everything with RDJ is like it's kind of like veil of like mystery. Like what does it really mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just what happens when you hold such a veil over yourself. Like the same with Tipper, right? It's like a lot of UK producers are like this, like Scope is also kind of like this. They're just quiet people. They're not like they don't like get on the internet and flaunt a ton.
And I'm such a massive Scope fan too. Like I just stumbled upon
he's insane.
Scope. Insane. Just
he's one of the best. Like I worked with him on a track in 2014 and then again for my album last year. And he just keeps getting better, man. Like he's one of those people who will just figure out the most clever tricks and you'll be like, fuck, like why I never thought to do that, but I've been using that tool for years. And like but yeah.
Have you heard any of Scope's like more like ghetto funk stuff? I was like amazed about how good that was. Like because I listened to Scope in more of like a bass music. I think like I heard more of like Scope's like halftime stuff first, but then I heard some of the more like funky stuff, and I'm like, wow, what a versatile guy! Like what a versatile artist,
Right? Yeah, he can make like the full blown cursor kind of shit, but he can also make like Sticky Buds music, and he can also make like drum and bass at the level of fucking Noisier, basically.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, crazy, absolutely. But yeah, we were getting it. So I think we digressed super hard, but I think originally we were talking about using sweeps and pink noise to test in speakers.
Yeah, correct.
Ago. Yep. And the applications for those. And so we spoke a little bit about pink noise and about how you can use that as a kind of a replacement for program stimulus. So a lot of the times what
program stimulus meaning like a song,
meaning a song. Yeah. So one of the things that they say when they say program stimulus. So if you're playing back stuff on a loudspeaker and you want to kind of get an idea of like what an overall bunch of material would sound like on playback, pink noise can be a rough gauge for that because of it's an even amount of energy per octave of the human hearing spectrum. So it's pretty
really
good.
Like all you're concerned with a speaker, right, is how it responds at every frequency, not so much how your favorite Scope tune sounds on there or whatever.
Exactly. And and how linear it is for what it sounds like as you get it louder, right? Like is it the same? Does it perform the same at 1 dB SPL as it does like way louder, right? Because that's an important thing. Because as you move mechanical parts, they might not react the same as they in one amount of energy compared to another amount of energy. So you want to make sure that also responds properly. Mm-hmm. And there's also what's called sweeps. And if anyone's ever used like a SonarWorks reference, you've actually had to do this in your house. I don't know if you've ever used that.
They're not really sweeps; they're like chirps.
Yeah, they're chirps. They're actually. I think they're called. They're called Dirac. Actually, is what they're called? Dirac impulses, which is like the physicist Paul Dirac, I think.
How do you spell Dirac?
DIRAC.
Okay. The first thing that comes up when I type in Dirac is a mini DSP box, which I have one of those actually.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's what they're called actually. It's a basically what it's doing in the audio realm is it's playing the frequency spectrum with a logarithmic sweep, and it will allow you to see you can create frequency response, or what they call FFTs. You can see a frequency response of your box when you do this, and this is how we test a lot of speakers.
Can we also quickly explain FFT?
Yeah. So it's basically like if you're the best way to describe it is if you have a on Ableton, you can put in spectrum, right, and that will show you the frequency spectrum of whatever signal you're putting through it, and that's basically what an FFT is. It's just another word. It's just that, what's it? Fast Fourier transform.
Yeah, exactly. Fast Fourier transform. But
Fast
basically,
form. Yeah.
before that, like frequency was measured slightly differently, but then some dude was like, or some person, might have been a woman, I can't remember, or whoever, they figured out that you can like map it on a graph where the horizontal axis is frequency and the vertical axis is volume, and there it's like kind of easier to see what's going on. I think before that, I can't remember how they were metering before that, but it sucked.
Well, it could have been oscilloscope. Could have been like a impulse response.
It was an oscilloscope. Yeah.
Yeah, which is measuring impulse response, which is you can also derive a lot of information from that. And also there's a thing called windowing, which is cutting out the amount of time after you do the sweep to make sure you're not getting a reflection in the room that you're sweeping in, assuming you're not using an anechoic chamber, which is basically a reflectiveless room. The sound doesn't reflect. Normally, like, people don't have access to an environment like an anechoic chamber because it's rather costly and difficult to have access to all the time. So we use semi-anechoic environments, and like for us, we just built a new 50,000 square foot space. We just moved and rebranded and did this huge thing where we kind of moved everything to this like a huge warehouse facility, and it's awesome. But I ended up having to rebuild all these spaces that we were used to, doing our measurements in. So it does take a little bit of time and getting used to when you're so used to working in a space for several years, and then it's like, all right, we're going to move over here and we're going to change everything. And then, the responses that you've been used to looking at in your old space, you kind of have to look and make sure that is this record, is the mic calibrated? Is the room set up proper? Because you're not exactly sure anymore.
And the calibration for acoustics is insane, right? It's like you have a little thing that looks like a silencer for a pistol, and you put it on top of your microphone, and that thing is supposed to be calibrated to put out like a 110 decibel sine wave or something like that, and then you tell your whatever room EQ is it or whatever software you're using, hey, that's a 110 decibel sine wave, so calibrate yourself to that, and then know what every other decibel is that's going to come into that based on this information that I'm giving you from this piece of hardware. And then like it just like you just calibrate all the way down the line basically.
That's exactly what we do. Although I think the little silencer one that I have does 94 and 124. Yeah, but you can get them all. You can get them in all different shapes and sizes. And we actually just ordered another one because if you're using, depending upon what mic you're using, they may or may not fit in that little silencer thing. Depending upon how big the head of the microphone is. So I think we ended up getting another one so we could fit. Oh, I remember we got another one because we wanted to fit some portable SPL meters that we had, because we use those just to check, once we have like a calibrated mic, we'll just make sure and double check with like other measurement devices as well. But we also have to make sure those are calibrated and make sure those are doing the right thing too. Right. So you have to.
At some point, it's just like what calibrates the calibrator at the very end of the chain, because that's the way you.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Like where did we decide, like, I don't know the answer to this. Where did we decide like what started off as this is this amount of SPL? There's got to be some kind of physics measurement to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably something like the amount of
air molecule.
Yeah, the amount of energy like a volcano puts out or something like that.
or like this is equal to this is something I should probably know and look up, but like it's like
the amount of sound to boil water is like
exactly. Yeah, it could be it actually totally could be something like related to like a molecular thing, I think.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, like that's actually something. I mean, obviously the like some of the physics side of stuff, I don't really, there's no real application for me in the day to day. So there's a lot of stuff there that I kind of wish I could delve into more, but I'm more worried about making sure that that speaker doesn't blow up as I blast I blast it as loud as I possibly can, and I test chamber.
A point I wanted to make earlier when you were talking about how most of testing is making sure that a speaker can withhold like insane playback for a long period of time. I had a friend that worked at Apple. I mean, he's still my friend, but like anyway, my friend works at Apple. He still works there, and he was telling me on the new iPhone 13s, I think this was actually even on the iPhone 12s, they had to put like a limiter basically on the speakers because they're capable of going so loud that they will just like melt shit in the phone. Like they'll just heat up and just start melting components.
Absolutely, I can see that.
And like, I don't know if you have an iPhone 13, but if you've like cranked it, the speaker on it is crazy. It's not like putting out a ton of sub, but like here, I'll show you. Like, I'll just like open up something on. I'll open up one of my tracks just in case the episode gets flagged. I can at least whitelist this on YouTube. Yeah, let's see here. If I crank this, it's like a pretty loud speaker.
That's pretty loud.
And this is on Spotify, actually. I think like if you open YouTube, there's no noise reduction thing. Yeah, here, let me open this. Is this going to play? Yeah. It's like hard to tell exactly, but yeah, it's a lot louder than you would expect, I think.
I believe that, I've seen so many things heat up, like especially like a transducer heating up, as a driver, just like creating that kind of energy. Because if you put it in different, like, when we do like, we'll do prototype tests, we'll see how intense can we, make this go, like before we run into something that causes an issue. Because you also have to remember too that these are operating for, like, when we'll do like the PK will do the bass pod at EDC or something, right? And it's on the Las Vegas Speedway there, and it's like, plus 40 or sorry, like 100, Fahrenheit, right? And
which you have to like take into account that sound travels at different speeds in different temperatures, right?
Yeah, not like crazy different, but yeah, it absolutely does. Absolutely. And it just, but also just the amount of like, it's not like they're like, most speakers aren't even covered. They're standing in like some kind of array. They're flown on like, structures on the stage, and they're completely exposed to a lot of elements. So that's a huge kind of important thing that you have to take into account, is not just making something, but making something robust enough where it can withstand that. And there's been a huge, I think even in the past, like since even when PK started, I think there's been a huge upscale with the RMS level of like everything in music. Like even though we have, everyone talks about loudness wars, but one of the things that I don't think a lot of people talk about in loudness wars is the effect it has on equipment. Not that I'm advocating for or against loudness. In fact, I've had a lot of discussions regarding how the aesthetic of a lot of new electronic music is heavy compression, and you need that. Like you can't make metal without. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you could apply all that compression and then turn your master down by 12 dB and render it, but like, why would you?
Well, yeah, because it's just going to end up getting turned up anyway when you go on the system, and it's going to sound
So you can't make bits.
Exactly. And I someone actually was trying to convince me one time that like the top, there's like the way the bits are like.
Can I explain this a little bit, just so in case?
In
case I haven't explained this already. There's two like sort of numbers that you're worried about with file rendering. One of them is sample rate, and the other one is bit depth. Sample rate is like how many samples per second can exist in the file digitally, and you basically want that to be 2 times the highest frequency you want to be able to hear, as per the Nyquist theorem. And in terms of bit depth, that's essentially just how much possible volumes how much possible gain intervals or amplitude intervals the file can be. So if you have a file that's 1 bit, it can only be completely quiet or completely loud, right?
Yeah, someone explained it to me like it was like the best way to visualize it is rungs on a ladder, where you could have a ladder that is 10 feet high, but it could have 5 steps in it, or it could have 25 steps in it. Right. So you have a better resolution of where you want to sit in that same amount, same distance up, but it's just you have a better resolution of where you want to sit in that.
That's a great analogy, actually, to like teach somebody this concept.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, the point I was trying to make, because I just kind of skimmed over it and then realized that's actually a good point, I think, for people to know.
No, absolutely.
When you're rendering a track out, there actually is an advantage to rendering it out at 0 decibels versus negative 10 decibels or whatever, just to like hit a certain RMS or whatever. And that reason is because in your analogy, if you render it out at negative 10 dB on a ladder that has 25 rungs, you're just rendering it out at like rung 10. And it's like, why not just use the other 15 rungs? Yeah.
And someone was actually, and I think this is, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I think someone was trying to explain to me dithering and how like the rungs get further apart at the lower sections of the ladder or something. I don't know if this is true.
Dithering is literally just good noise to mask bad noise. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So when you render out a file, there's always going to be quantization errors. So basically those quantization errors sound like distortion and a little bit of white noise or pink noise. So like let's say you have like the best way to explain this is, let's say using the ladder thing again, that you have a 25 rung ladder and the quantization errors are like just 2 rungs big, like they're very small. Basically what dither would be pink noise that sits at 3 rungs the entire time. So it just like masks the quantization errors because your brain is not going to be able to pick out one little bit of distortion against like a whole lot of distortion, but it's also so quiet that like it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's the like I was asking someone about this because this is like kind of like I'm not super like familiar with exactly how that worked, and I was talking to someone about this and they were kind of explaining the same thing about how like because our noise floor is so low in like a lot of digital stuff that it like sometimes you don't even need to dither because
you absolutely don't. Like if you don't dither, nobody's going to be like, oh man, that's undithered. That sounds like shit. Like there's there's no way, like impossible. And you could turn dithering off in Ableton, never turn it on again, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, I think, what do you think about this? You think like if someone were to send you stems for mastering, right? And you were doing a bunch of processing on them, would you still want them at a minimum of 24-bit though?
I would want them at 32-bit, and the reason why is because
Sorry, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason why is because again, like decibels, bit depth works exponentially, right? So it's like I think with 24-bit you have like 24 million possibilities of volume that a thing can be, or 24 million rungs on a ladder. But in 32-bit, you have like fucking billions. It's crazy. So I think it's billions. I don't know. It's some crazy large number. But anyway, the point is that because that number is so large, you can clip the hell out of your stems. You can clip them by something like 60 dB or something. And so long as they get rendered out as 32-bit and you re-import them into a 32-bit environment, you can just turn the clips down and then you retain like all the dynamics.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember you did something a long time ago where you were turning channels up by 60 dB, trying to find where they were clipping.
The distortion point. Yeah, it's
the distortion point.
It's 62 dB in Ableton.
Yeah, I remember that. Someone showed me that video. That was actually, I think, the first time that I heard about you.
Oh, nice.
Was that. And then the other time I think was a friend of mine in Vancouver, Long Walk Short Doc is his artist name.
Yeah, I love that guy. Is it Dave?
Dave, yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's a great artist. He's really awesome, and
Yeah, he's a strange dude. He does like the strange, crazy shit.
The thing is, I don't find it that strange. The more I listen to it, the more I don't find it that strange. Like it's just, I'm just more like, well, this is. I guess
what I mean is like against the norm. It's very not normal compared to like everything else you would see on a festival lineup. Generally, he's like usually.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's not homogenous.
No, but that's what I love about him, and he's got like a crazy analog collection of synths. Which is awesome. I got him to do a bunch of just like synth noise recordings for me for a project I did. I try to do this. I do this weird thing every Halloween where I try to do an audio drama album where I write an album, but I also write a story to go along with it. Cool. And it's like usually a short horror story. And it's kind of like I don't know. I love the No Sleep podcast. So I listen to a lot of like short horror ghost stories and stuff. But I try to do this like concept album. I last time I did one, I was like, hey, can you just go and just give me some samples from like Analog Gear of just like little like weird noises and like little like arpeggiations and stuff. So I incorporated a bunch of those in the last album. He was really awesome and helpful having me do that. But he's the one that told me about you. He was, I think,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and spoke very highly of you. I think him and Ill Gates as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think Dylan actually lives back in Vancouver now. He was living in LA for a while.
Yeah, he was. He's just, I think he's just finishing up a new album right now.
Yep. Yeah, he sent it to me. It sounded pretty good.
Yeah, and you have one on there too, don't you?
We did. We pulled it off though because he was like, the album has to be finished by like tomorrow, and I was like, dude, our track is like not done. And he was like, I think it's fine. And I was like, fine's not good enough. Like it needs to be insane. So
what are your levels like as far as like when you're finishing something? How do you know it's like ready for you? Like what feeling do you get?
There's a few feelings. One is that like I generally like start to dislike it. Like I start to think like, fuck, this is like wrong in all the ways and stuff like that. Like if Hero Bus said something interesting to me on a podcast a while ago, and I'd never really thought about stuff this way. But after like he said that, I notice it a lot actually. And that is that if he was like, man, if I feel like I've really nailed it, I know that like it's not done. Because it just means you haven't like worked on it long enough, basically. And I've noticed that actually. I've noticed when I first make something, like when you first get the riff and you're like, that's it. Like you're like, this is sick. But then the more you listen to it, like if you just rendered it right then and there and like put it away as a WAV file and listen to it like a month later, you'd be like, oh, it needs this, it needs that. Like you have a bunch of opinions on it then. But
absolutely.
Yeah, so,
I've had that same thing happen to me for sure.
Right. So
that's like, this is great. I did it. It's 4 hours. I'm all done. And then like you put it away for like a week and then you listen to it, you're like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Dude, there's been one exception to this rule, and it was my track Pleasure Seeker. I literally wrote it in like 45 minutes. And it's just people are fucking with it super hard. And it's simple. It just works. And it was one of those ones where I was like, this is sick. I put it away. And I was like, I know for sure if I come back to this like in months' time or a couple of months' time, I'll know what it needs to be finished. And every time I came back to it, I was just like, I don't know what I would add to this. And then I was just like, it just feels like, I made it too quickly. It doesn't feel like it must be good because I made it too quickly. So I was just like, I'll just put it on like the end of my podcast as like the podcast outro tune or something. It's just like a beat. And then people kept asking like, dude, what the fuck is that song at the end of your podcast? And then I was like, I got asked about it like more than any other tune. Like I was getting asked about it like 5 times a day. I was crazy. So I was like, all right, I'll put it out. And yeah, it's like it's the most popular tune on the album by far.
That's awesome. See, that's funny because like I definitely know what you mean by like making something and then going, oh man, like you almost give the tune you made imposter syndrome. You're like, there's no way this can be done.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? I have a theory about this. I think it's because we live in a capitalist society and we put a lot of value on effort. Like the harder something is, the longer you had to study, the harder you had to work to buy the
the more your nose was to the grindstone. Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, and because of that, I think we just carry that over into creative endeavors now too, which is just not how creativity works.
It's absolutely not. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's also just not how music taste works, because if that were the case, artists who just spent the longest time on their music would be revered by the most people, but it's just not how it works.
Yeah. Well, there's also the whole concept of the 10,000 hours and mastery of something. It's like, maybe writing that song, if you added in all the failed attempts of making something like that beforehand, that if it's okay if this one piece of creation that you make comes out quickly because you spent all this time learning and preparing beforehand with failed attempts.
Right. The reason I could make Pleasure Seeker in 45 minutes is because I made a bunch of dog shit tracks in 10 hours.
Yeah. Or you worked on that kick drum. Like I remember working on kick drums for like a day, and I'm like, that kind of thing, right? Where you end up getting lost in something that it will never even be completed because it doesn't necessarily have the right foundation or whatever, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's also why specialized skill sets pay way higher by the hour, right? Like if you're an insane programmer or something like that, I know I was living in SF for a while, and some of the programmers there, I would ask them like, how much would you charge me per hour if I wanted to, hire you freelance to do some work on my website? And they're like, I don't know, like minimum $1,200 an hour. It's like $1,200 an hour. That's insane. And they're like, that's what I value my time at. And I was like,
because you're not just paying for their time right then. You're paying for all the experience that they had before, right?
You're paying them to go through fucking MIT and do a PhD and like all this crap. It's like you're paying for like a lot of mathematics that they had to learn, and like a lot of, they basically never partied. They just maths and like.
Oh well, I used to live in Boston. Some of those MIT guys, you'd be surprised, they party pretty hard.
Right? Are they the
like,
ones
hey, I was just in the chem lab. I just made this thing. You want to try it? No.
Oh my god, is that real?
That did happen to me once, but I don't know if they were kidding or not. It was at a party. It was at like a house party. I'm not sure if that, but they did say that to me. So I don't know.
Damn.
Are you on the East Coast now?
Yeah, I live in Virginia now. So
okay.
Yeah, I moved from San Francisco to Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oh, all right. I had no idea. I thought you were still in San Francisco.
I had like some life implosion shit happen, and that's why the podcast actually hasn't happened for a while, because I was like, oh no, my life is imploding, and then I was like, all right, it's imploded, and then I'm like, all right, now I live in Virginia, I got to reset up the studio. It's like a lot of crazy shit that I'm just not quite ready to share publicly yet. But,
no, that's fine. You don't have to. I mean, I could talk about my experience rather if you don't want to. I mean, I had my life kind of imploded as well about 5 years ago when I left Terra Vita. Mm-hmm. And so I had to kind of do a full reset where I was living in LA, and then, I was a touring musician for 10 years and just doing mixing and mastering was, that kind of thing. But I had a really good, relationship with PK, and I had, I obviously been doing about 20 years of critical listening work and working with audio. So, I had having a really good relationship with them. And getting to work with them and just saying, hey, like, I don't know if I'm doing music now. I think I'm gonna, start pursuing something else. And they were really helpful and really trustworthy of me. And, I've been a PK for about 6.5 years now, but there was always that risk of an implosion in the beginning there of like, what am I doing? I'm shifting everything and, rebuilding my life and everything. It was a rather scary thing to do. I think you seem like a pretty resourceful guy, and I hope everything works out for you. I think it will.
It's fine. I think, I think just due to so many years of touring, that'll make you very resourceful, but it'll also make you like very tolerant to immediate and crazy changes, I think.
Adaptation.
It makes you very like malleable and and tolerant of just like complete situation changes. Because so many times on the road, it's like, oh, fuck, my flights are all canceled and now I'm in, Washington or whatever the state or some shit for like the next week or 2 days or whatever. Now I have to like stay on hold with the airline company and like buy fucking new clothes and like they lost my bags and like all this kind of shit. Like I've dealt with it just hundreds of times now. So it's at this point when I'm like, oh, a giant change where I have to like move all of my crap and like I can't write music for a bit. And I'm just like,
hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The one thing that I'm really happy about in my life, and I hope this reflects as well true to you, is that regardless of what I have going on externally, I always still have the kind of music thing to kind of escape to. I remember there were periods of time where I'd go through relationships or I'd go through big changes, and I was always I'd watch other people have this go through similar things, and then they'd be like, I can't write music, I can't, I'm not inspired. And I've always kind of found that that's like the one rock, that's like the one thing that I can hide myself and like do that still. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I find personally writing music to just be very cathartic, but also like a great distraction from feelings. Sometimes it's a great way to like let your feelings out, but it's also a great way, I think, to just be like, I'm going to fucking make presets in this synth, mindless sound design for a few hours or whatever. And then you get sucked into a synth. It's like, you're not thinking about your feelings at that point. You're just like one with the fucking phase plant.
Yes. So you use phase plant? See, because I've talked to so many people that are like, I love phase plant. I think it's great. And I've talked to people that are like,
synth. I mean, like, how is it not?
I think people just might be intimidated a little bit.
For sure, because it's like, it's insane. Like there's so much going on in it. But it sounds just as good as Serum, for sure. Like if you take like a Serum oscillator and a phase plant oscillator, do the same kind of filtering and same kind of envelope curve and everything, it's like you can get it as snappy and similar.
I personally like it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, but then on top of that, it's like with Serum effects, you just have like 10 effects. With phase plant, you have literally unlimited effects. And sound design, in my opinion, is all about processing, because there's only so far you'll get with any wavetable and like any mixture of audio rate modulating another oscillator or using fucking FM to do something. Like there's only so far a sound can go that way. So I think people get stuck too much on that like first bit of the process where they're like, oh, I FM'd this thing, or like I added this and this together and then FM'd it, or so. It's like, who cares? Like if that makes a fucking dog shit
that's a good foundation. That's exactly, a good foundation to then add processing to it, if you ask me. Right. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, especially when I'm doing like long mud pie stuff. Like the only thing I wish I could do in phase plant is be able to embed Rift in it, because I love Rift so much now. I don't know if you use Rift at all.
Yeah, I do. I don't use it a ton, but I made presets for it.
You did?
Yeah, so a bunch of artists did, but they didn't name them as such. Like they didn't name them like Mr. Bill preset and blah, blah, blah preset. They instead just like paid people to make them and then just named them all like after the categories that they were in.
Yeah. Are you allowed to say which ones you made?
I actually don't know. They renamed them, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. I've worked for some companies where they're like, don't say that you worked on this. Like,
oh, right. Okay. I mean, I'll send you the presets I made. If you're like a big fan of Rift.
I love Rift. Yeah, I did. Well, see, the only time I've ever really gotten like credit on something is they put my they did put my artist name after me on the original Stutter Edit, Isotope Stutter Edit. I did.
Oh, cool.
I did presets in that. And they put the artist names after, so I did have a few banks in that one, but there's other ones that I've worked on where they're not allowed to. I'm not allowed to say that kind of thing. Where right. But they'd rather it not be public knowledge, I guess.
Why? But, that's so weird. They're
just like, it's just company policies and stuff. You just it's not my product. I have to respect what they say, but at the same time, I
just don't see the benefit.
I don't need. Well, yeah, neither do I. Because I mean, it's like it's just all it is it's like more branding for them. Like it's more like, hey, look at what we, look, I'm going to advertise your product as well because I worked on it, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But I guess, I don't know. It's everybody's got their own, people want to be in control of their brand. And I definitely understand that, especially in the age of like social media and things like that, where things can be completely miscommunicated and stuff like that,
Right. Yeah, totally. Cool, man. Well, hey, we should wrap up, I think, because it's been about an hour. And although people often ask me to do longer episodes, I find you can check the like analytics and shit and see where people start tapering off with listening anyway. And it's like the people who are making it to the end are few and far between, it seems.
Of course, yeah. I mean, if there's do you have any other questions you want to ask or anything?
I kind of wanted to get a little bit into like how speaker design is essentially just like very small room acoustics and like go down that thought path, which let's go down it actually. That sounds fun.
Yeah. So you wanted to know basically if you're the way that we're doing box tuning is kind of what it sounds like you're describing. Box tuning versus room tuning, right?
Right. So like with a room tune, actually, no, you know what I want to ask? I don't want to ask about that. I want to ask about the snailed coils, like the snailed horns inside the sub boxes.
Horn loaded subs.
Yes. And is this is this just a PK thing, or do lots of people do this, or is that
this is a huge industry thing, right?
Because it's just something that PK really invented, or no?
No. There's the patents we have for that kind of stuff. I mean, I think the coolest thing to look at what PK has as far as like sound directionality and stuff is our robotic line array,
gotcha. which is the Trinity, right?
The Trinity and the Trinity family.
Okay. We should describe that at some point and what that does.
Yeah, so basically it's a pretty simple physical concept where when you're hanging a large scale line array, you have to change you have an angle for vertical and horizontal directionality. Mm-hmm. And this has to do with the way that sound works, like just the way it would work if you had like light laser beams pointing at mirrors. Things reflect, right? And it's really easy to picture a laser beam in a mirror because you can see the laser beam hitting and bouncing off and changing direction. Mm-hmm. But sound will do this. Sound will also bounce off objects and get absorbed in certain frequencies depending on what the object is. There's a lot of different factors that change the way sound will propagate in a room. However, we have the ability with our robotic line arrays to steer the sound with using our horn flares, which are the horizontal angles. So, for example, if we're shooting something in it, like picture like a cone that's moving out like 120 degrees, we can narrow that angle so it's not bouncing off the wall and going directly into the venue. Mm-hmm. We also have the ability to move the line arrays vertically. So, usually you'll see, I guess traditionally, you'll see like a J shape in like a line array.
Right, so like they kind of come down and like bend under sort of.
Exactly. And so we can use our robotic line arrays to change things like, usually what happens traditionally is you have to use room prediction software to get an idea of where you want to hang and move the arrays so they point in the proper direction. With the robotic line array, if there is any kind of like mitigating factor or something that changes in the venue, you can move it immediately and aim things the way that they're supposed to. So you can get very, very fine. You don't have to pull the array down and rehang it with different pins or anything like that. You can move it using our software and it will angle exactly where you need it to go.
Dude, that's so sick.
It's really awesome. It's really fun to like work on that.
My loudspeakers in here. I just upgraded to the Key 3s from the MM27s, and I like a big thing obviously like is when you're sitting in the mix position, getting the toe in right. Which toe in just means the angle of the speakers basically. And I fucking wish that my stands were robotic so I could just sit here and just like angle them in and then be like, that's the spot, like stay there. Because I have to keep getting up, walking around my desk, like literally like thumbing it, like shifting it like the tiniest bit, and then sitting back down and going like, all right, the stereo's popping a little harder now and stuff.
Yeah, the sweet spot changes, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're like, all right, that's like the good center image and the good stereo. And then you're like, but could I get it better? And then you go fuck with it again, sit down, you're like, no, it's worse again. And like
it's the ever-ending struggle to get
really
like the
is,
perfect
dude.
stereo level.
I honestly fuck with them like almost every day. It's crazy.
But yeah, horn-loaded subs though. Before I forget here,
yes,
you were asking about those horn-loaded subs,
which are like. So from my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong, I'm interested to know more about it. Is that essentially the theory or the concept behind it is that lower frequencies take like a physical, like a distance to propagate properly, right? Like I want to say like a 30 hertz sub or something like that. It takes like fucking 10 meters until that like sine wave or that sub
until the cycles
wave, until the one cycle has completed. Yeah. So from what I understand, the idea is that you have like a snailed coil or the horn that you see out the front goes into like a snail kind of shape inside the box and then hooks into the driver. And then that way the sub has already traveled like 6 or 7 meters before it even exits the speaker. Is that correct?
Yeah, So the air. So what's happening is you're giving it more of a more air distance before it's traveling out. You can do this on any like our, for example, the 12s on our line array are slightly horn loaded. We have a little bit of a distance there, but it's as simple as like the way you would like, you know, talk like normally, and then but if I cup my hands up, I start getting like a little louder. Right.
And also
you're just
like
creating a horn. You're creating a horn. Well, yeah, and that's actually the argument against horn loading for a lot of things, because you are adding like coloration to the sound.
Like filtering
when you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. But you are also adding amplification to the sound as well. So as long as you have the artifacts that you're adding in by physically horn loading something dialed in, you can use that as an application, and it does work very successfully in a lot of different.
Dude, I just had a crazy idea. Would it make sense to just make speakers modeled after the human head?
Or modeled after like
just build like a head sculpture and just have the horn coming out of the mouth, but like not a horn, because I mean the whole front plate of the speaker would just be a face, and like.
How big are we talking? How big of a head are we talking?
I mean,
like an actual human-sized head?
No. I mean, in the studio maybe, but like live bigger. You know, same as like, you know, in the studio you have like near-field monitors, and live you have like bigger speakers. Same deal.
Well, so you'd make like I see what you're saying. So make it like a round shape.
Yeah, like make it like a human, just make it look exactly like a human head with ears and like even hair maybe and everything. And like basically it would just have like the acoustic properties of a human head producing the voice, which for a mid-range driver might be like perfect, right?
I was just about to say, for a mid-range driver, that would work great. For like where human tweeters,
you might want to model after a bird. And then subs you might want to model after like, I don't know.
A whale?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a larger animal. Dude, imagine
some large animal. I had a friend who was studying that, and he was telling me this like really interesting thing about whales, about how they actually have this like temperature level in the water where it's like it's not too low in the water but not too high in the water. It's right where this band or something where like the water gets like a certain temperature, and that's where they kind of go up to and communicate on this band. And I guess it makes their voices travel further because the temperature traps, like it's kind of like a string on a cup on a string, so to speak.
I'm just looking up the decibels that they give out. I feel like I looked at this. So white-toothed whales use a sonar that may generate up to 20,000 watts of sound. Isn't that crazy?
Jeez,
that's like how like I don't even know what that really means. It sounds like a lot. How much is 20,000 watts of sound? Because I know like when Excision goes on tour, they're like 50,000 watts of PK sound. So it's like almost that.
Well, but that's potential. That's like a potentiality of what you could have, right?
You're not running that shit at full capacity, right?
Well, it's also no, you don't want to all the time. I mean, it's like saying, well, if I play if I play a sine tone at 50 hertz through this at full amplitude, you know what I mean? It's like you can produce that, but you want sound to be dynamic, right? You want like you have a potential to create like a certain amount of energy, but you want it to have like if you had a kick drum that just went and didn't have any like amplitude to it,
right.
it wouldn't be much fun, right?
Totally.
So I mean, obviously, there are, I also have to look at like I like looking at like the way that like I think for me the important thing for me is how, not just how much bass I can have, but how dynamic the bass can be. Right. So like, how does the kick drum, like if I'm standing in front of a subwall, how can a kick drum hit me in the chest? Like, because that's a voltage thing, right? That's like how hard the driver will push in and out real quick. Right. So I actually did this experiment once on a big system where I took one section of the subwall and I ran it through. I was running it through this front of house, this digital mixer front of house, and I compressed it really, really hard, and then took another layer of the subwall and ran it through another channel, but didn't compress it, and then basically created this like kind of parallel compression on the subwall. I don't know if it's necessarily like a good application to do, like all the time, but it was a fun experiment to see like how much I could like push one section of sub to really make it like punch, and then have the other one be like really sustained. So when you have like an 808 kick, when you have like you'd have this like really kind of rumble, but you'd mix it like differently than you would like that dynamic hit of like the other stuff. Yeah,
you would kind of turn that down, and that sub would be like loud for a long period of time, and then your other one that's not compressed as much would just be like loud for a shorter period of time, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Makes sense. I wanted to speak a little bit on something that Tipper's manager told me after the Red Rock show that he did recently. I was like sitting outside trying to order an Uber, and I was like, I can't find an Uber, and everyone had left Red Rock, so I'd almost like got stuck out there, because Ubers won't come out there at that time of night, after a Red Rock show, because they're like, I don't want to fucking drive all the way out there. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go up to the green room and just see if anyone's here. And the only person that was left was literally Dave Vella, which is Tipper's manager. So we jumped in the car with him and he drove us back to the city. And he was telling us that during that show and the one the night before that he played, which was all on a Function 1 Vero, that the Function 1 Vero that they were using has like a max SPL that they were A, allowed to go to, but B, could pretty much only go to, which was like something like 117 or 120 dB. Does that sound about right for a show?
You mean legally, like they're saying you're only allowed to go this high, or you're saying that the capacity of the box is rated?
I think it was maybe both. I don't know. Anyway, what he told me, and this I would love to hear your opinion on whether or not it sounds like bullshit, is during the build-ups of Tipper's tracks, they would have it like whatever, the sound guy would be like kind of turning it down or whatever. And then as soon as they would get to like the drops, he would sort of crank the system to like as hard as it could go without clipping. And then they would just have to like get the fuck out of there by the next section, like the next build-up or whatever, to kind of let the drivers cool down a bit again, because they were like worried they were going to run the drivers too hot. Does this sound like bullshit or...
I mean, I don't know about running the drivers too hot. I mean, usually you'd
like blowing amps or something. Or?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that, but like I definitely know that a sound guy who's really paying attention to your set would do something like that for you, because that's just an awesome sound tech. Yeah. That's just a really good sound tech going, I'm going to make this as dramatic as possible for you.
Yeah,
but given any setup, I mean, I don't know how that was routed, how that, what the kind of power they had. So it's very possible that there is a bunch of things that if they were running it at full capacity could have, made that system not work properly, right? It could have just been the power there. It could have been, it could like, I don't know if it's necessarily the speakers themselves that are doing that, but I definitely don't think that's bullshit. I've seen a lot of really talented techs go, I'm in a situation, there's something going not exactly as planned. I'm going to adapt to it and make sure that there's a really good thing happening on stage. That's actually a big, and this is for anybody who's listening that plays a show. You want to have a better show. Go up to your front of house guy, introduce yourself, be nice to them. Like that's something that actually I don't think gets said enough in especially with DJs.
It's hard to do sometimes as a DJ if you're like socially anxious. Because,
that's true.
Like you don't want to go out to the front of house guy and then get like pulled up by a ton of people and stuff like that. And some days I'm incredibly socially anxious, other days not at all, and it's just how I'm feeling sometimes.
If you have the opportunity to do it at sound check, I should say. Like if you're doing something,
I usually do that actually.
Yeah, I think, and you know what? I think it's you're all the smarter for it, honestly, because you are doing something where you have basically this person that's in between you and the sound system, and they very much have the ability to make your show go better or worse. So the more it's kind of like you're working with them almost, and if you can have a good rapport with them and understand and respect them especially if they're someone that works at that venue and does that all the time.
Right.
I think that it's a very helpful thing. Mm-hmm. I think bands, like, usually for the most part tend to have a bit more of a relationship with those guys because they have to have their mics and they have to have like a lot more things connected.
Thing, yeah,
exactly.
You can't just take the band before you sort of boilerplate gain structure and settings and just apply it to your band. It doesn't really work that way.
Exactly. Yeah. So you want to but with DJing, it's kind of like, all right, you're watching this board, making sure I don't want to run red or hurt or damage your system, right? So I've just had the experience of just going up and saying, hey, like, how loud, we're running a Pioneer 900 up here. How loud, do you have it set up to run? Right. And they'll be like, oh, you can run it in the red. No problem. I have it set up on the board where you can run it that loud. Right. Or they'll be like, yeah, if you can turn yourself down a little bit on the master, I'll be able to turn you up here. You'll sound way better.
It's a big trust factor thing, though, right? Because, for instance, New Year's Eve this year I played a fucking massive show in Detroit. It was like 4,000 or 5,000 people. I was opening for Ganja, like direct support with Kill Smith we did the Kill Bill thing. And in soundcheck, they put a piece of tape on the mixer and we're like, don't go louder than this.
I've seen those, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll respect that. Like both Chris and I are fairly audiophilic, so we'll respect that for sure. And then the guy who played before us, Ivy Lab, and then the person who played before him, Computer, were just both fucking double redlining the entire time. So when we got on the stage, we were like, we're not going to do that. We're going to do what we said we were going to do to the sound guy in sound check, and he said he was going to turn us up, right? So we were playing. We didn't even know because we had our boost cranked and everything. But we got messages after the show from people being like, "Oh man, sucks they turned you down for the first 25 minutes of your set." It's no.
Were they just not at front of house? Did they just not they just weren't there and didn't turn you up, or they didn't?
I have no idea, but it's you would think at a show that size, they'd be on the ball when there's at least an act change or something, right? Or
absolutely.
Maybe they just assume those guys were running in the same level that we were going to run at or something. But yeah, anyway.
I've actually done that before too, though, where I'll see the guy playing before me and I'll be like, oh my god, this artist is really hitting the red hard, and I'll go over to front of house and I'll be like, hey, so this person's really just smashing it out. I'm not going to do that. So can you turn me up? I've definitely had to do that at probably more occasions than I can count on my hands.
Yeah, maybe a good strategy would be getting the sound guy's number or something and just being like, I'm going to text you from backstage or something if I need anything or whatever. That's
actually probably a great idea.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many times in communication, right? Where you want to be able to communicate. Anyway, we're running way over.
Well, hold on. I wanted to talk about one more thing actually.
No, go ahead. I mean, I'm free. If you obviously if you want to cut any of this, you can make it shorter. I just anything you feel like asking. I cleared the afternoon, so.
Oh, tight. Yeah, no. Any length we do it will be the length that it gets released as. I usually don't cut anything out unless the guest wants to. And usually that's just like because they think they say something that might have been a little insensitive or because something like that. But I don't think we've gone anywhere close to that in this episode.
I'm very sensitive about horn-loaded subs.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I will never, like drop the H word around a horn-loaded sub,
You just don't want to do it. You just don't want to do it. Insensitive.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, amps. I want to talk about amps because you're just saying that, with the tipper thing, the example that I gave there, that the most likely case is that you would blow an amp and not a speaker.
Or just the circuit. Like if they
Gotcha.
like it might not even be the amplifier that's running. Like I don't know if it was you said it was a function one system or like
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like I'm not 100% familiar with all their systems, but I know that there's passive and active types of speakers, right? So for people
active-
listening at home,
Yeah, there you go.
what that is basically you can have an external amplifier that's powering a lot of different speakers that don't have power inherently in them. But something like for example, your studio monitors at home, like if you're familiar with what they would look like in your studio, those all have power switches in the back, which means they have built-in amplifiers in the back of their speakers. And those are considered what's called active speakers, right?
Right.
So in the scenario like that, like obviously if you don't have like the full information of what's going on, it could have simply been that they're running a lot of power on the circuits they had available and they don't want to trip the circuit, right?
So can you just explain like the most basic thing, like what is an amp in this scenario doing even?
Well, okay, so like to give you an example of the way like a circuit would work in a loudspeaker, right? You have like a simple circuit where you have electrons travel out one way and hit what's called a transducer. In this case, it would be a driver, right? And that driver is what moves the speaker. Like that driver is what the speaker is that's moving. It's basically that cone that everyone looks at, the circle, the cone. That's what's called the driver, right? And that has a whole bunch of different specific pieces. But basically, what that is normally it's a coiled copper that's has a magnet on it that gives it like a charge of basically back or forth. Am I moving the cone back or forth to create that sound, right? And move air, okay? So what you need though is you need, if in that circuit, you need to amplify that circuit because otherwise you don't have anything giving enough, and you don't have enough things. You don't have enough power to give that circuit the energy it needs to move that transducer. Right. So to push it back and forth.
So you either get like an incredibly quiet signal or no signal.
Or no signal. Like in fact, what we do is when we're testing a speaker's impedance, like how much resistance it has in a circuit, what we do is we remove the amplifier, right? And we run a test without the amplifier, and it'll bring back a little response that will show what has the least and most resistance in a frequency spectrum. So you can kind of say, oh, well, the resonant frequency of this driver is at 100 hertz or whatever it may be. You can actually look and see like where in the spectrum it has. So you play another little sweep, but you can't really hear the sweep when you do it without an amplifier. You hear it really quiet. It's like a little weep. It's like really, really quiet. But then you can see without an amplifier where the resistance of that where it's the least resistant is where the resonant frequency of that object is, right. So basically you need just what the word is. You need to amplify the energy of it to move that object, right, or to move that transducer in this case, right.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It's like in the same way that phantom power powers like a condenser microphone or something. It's just like sending a little more signal in because that transducer in the microphone, which is essentially just a speaker wired backwards, needs a little more power than a dynamic microphone, which requires less, right?
Yeah, you basically anything that's going to be a moving, vibrating mechanical thing is going to need more energy to move it, right? Like there is the 30-inch speaker technology that we use is actually not a traditional magnetic copper coil. It's actually a piston driven, almost looks like an engine. It's like it looks like this little engine block almost, and so it's still having to move. You still have to power it with like electricity through a circuit, but in order to do that, you need a lot more power because you're moving like a bigger thing.
You're essentially moving like a solenoid or something, right?
Yeah, you're moving. It basically looks like this. It looks like a rectangular block,
right?
And there's a like a piston that comes out of it.
Yep.
Right.
And that's
connected to a cone. Right? That's connected to the cone, and then that pushes the cone back and forth.
Right, and that's in place of the standard design, which would be essentially a piece of metal or something like that with a coil wound around it, right?
Yeah, it's copper coil wound around this winded around the base of the cone, and then the cone sits in the back of these slits that are inside this magnet. And so the magnet is then charged differently to give it the basically the 1 or 0. Like, am I moving back, or which direction am I moving?
Right. And then like everything in between 1 and 0, right? This is the exact same as like exactly. how like Euro rack synthesis works, right? It's kind of like the only thing that voltage can do is go higher, go lower, or stay the same. And that's pretty much like all modular synthesis is, whether it's a modulator or a oscillator or an output. It doesn't, or an amplifier. It's like all the same. It's like is it some range between 0 or no electricity in it, or 1, the most electricity it can handle in it.
Yeah, and we have like DSP, like my direct like work at PK is doing DSP stuff, which is testing for dynamics of the drivers. So like how much voltage, how much power can I put through, and also the frequency response of it, you know? So there's digital processes that go in between the like what's actually coming out of the speaker and what's going into the speaker, right? And that DSP will regulate, you know, like if how much power you're going to give the driver, and what frequencies are getting filtered. There's like a frequency filter in there as well, right? So
I was going to ask, when somebody says that they like blew up an amp, you know, like sometimes I hear this, like I'll be like, why is the sound not working? And someone's like, oh, they blew an amp. Like, what does that mean? Does that just mean that they sent too much electricity into it and like specifically a component in there blew? Or does it just mean most of the time that they tripped a circuit or something like that?
Tripping a circuit would mean like the whole thing just shuts off.
Yeah.
Right. Like the whole circuit. So everything connected to it would shut off. If someone blew the amp or like fried the amp, I would say more accurate term would probably be fry the amp.
Okay.
Because you're literally heating it up to the point where like usually what I see goes first in amps are usually capacitors, because you're putting so much power like through them that they literally heat up. Or like I've had I had a capacitor actually. I opened up an old, like we were like prototype testing this old thing, and like this was like, you know, it wasn't like a product we use, but this is like something I was just like testing, and I opened it up and I actually had like a capacitor like almost explode in my face.
Oh my god! And they're made out of what, like ceramic or something, right?
I know that they have castor oil in some of them. And that's what actually exploded in my face.
Fuck's like a little Molotov cocktail or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but I think that I don't know exactly what they're. I think the ceramic ones. There's different kinds as well, but they're all like. I know that I definitely had a ceramic one at one point, like just kind of drip off and like kind of just melt off once and like embed itself in the wood. I mean, obviously these are all things that like we never, like we, you know, when we're making products, we test all this stuff so it never happens in like when we're using the products, right? So these are all experiences that I had in R&D, making sure that no one has to experience them when they get used, right?
Right. Cool. Well, yeah, man. I mean, I think that's most of my questions about speakers for the time being.
Yeah. I mean, I thank you so much for having me on the show, and I'm happy I got to talk music with you a little bit too. I mean, that's really like, what I've been doing, what I was doing prior to this for a long time as well. And we didn't really get into much talk about like sound design or mixing and stuff like that.
I've talked about that so much on this show already. And we can talk about sound design and stuff like at some point, but I feel like people at this show are probably like a lot more bored of that than they are about like physics of how speakers work right now. Because we've only ever done one other episode that was like this one, and it was with Anthony Bassett from, I can't remember his company's name, but they're based in Oakland, and they make these pretty cool speakers. And I had Matt Davis on at the same time. And Matt Davis is like a small room acoustician. He does like acoustics for like Tipper and Chris Lake and those kind of people.
Nice.
And he works as Bob Katz's like side engineer, basically. Like he's
cool.
Yeah, he works directly with Bob Katz and stuff like that. So he's like,
I love Bob Katz. I love Bob Katz's book.
Yeah, dude. So the Key 3s I upgraded to because he's been talking about them a lot. But yeah, anyway, Bob Katz's book is great. I had that as like a university reference thing. But yeah, anyway, so Matt and Anthony were on at one point, and that episode was like, I think a little similar to this one because we were talking about speaker design versus like acoustics and just sound theory shit in general. But I always find this shit like really interesting to talk about because it's almost like if you understand stuff from this fundamental level, then like mixing becomes so much easier, and speaker placement becomes like kind of more intuitive, and like a lot of these answers that you always thought were like to really daunting questions and stuff, you're like, well, if I just think about it in the most basic terms, like it's not actually that confusing.
No, yeah. Like you were describing before, how we really only have almost like an XY coordinate that we're working with. We've got frequency and we've got amplitude.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it, right? and then from there, the amount of stuff you can do though is astounding, right?
Well, we have time as well.
Yeah, but frequency and amplitude like don't exist unless together unless you have time.
Right.
Yeah, unless time
it's implied.
Right? It's implied. Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, you can have it. I guess one instance of like a digital sample doesn't have time.
It still does, but it's just such.
I guess it still does technically. Yeah.
It has one sample of time, whatever that is, 44 1,000th of a second.
If you're in 44.1. Yeah. Yeah. Do you usually? This is a question I have for you. Do you usually stay in 44.1?
Yes, and the only reason why I would go to any other sample rate is because the project I was working on required it or something, which like I scored a Nick Cage movie and had to work in 48. That's the only real reason I would do it, or if like I was using a sound card that like required it or something. But for the most part, I've done so many tests, like A/B tests, using Hofer Double Blind, which is a plugin that you can just throw shit into, and just like there's a little dice icon on it, and you click the dice, and it just randomly plays you one back, and it's like, how'd you feel about that one? You rate it by a 5-star system, and you also write notes like how you felt about it. So I do that sometimes, and I'll do it with various shit, like bit depth, sample rate. I'll like, shoot out compressors against one another, that kind of shit. And I can't tell the difference, man, like between fucking 44.1 and 192. However, there actually is another reason why I would do this, and it's if I was stretching the sample incredibly long. Like for instance, if I planned to put sample into like pole stretch or something like that and stretch it out to like 50 times its length, then I would render it out as 192K. because then it just has like more samples per second, and as you stretch it out, it's different.
It makes a big difference, I'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So the way to do this in Ableton is go into your render settings, turn it all the way up, render out the thing you want to stretch, put it back in while the session's still running at 192K, stretch it out, and then you need to render it and then import that sample again before setting it back to 44.1. And then it's just a higher resolution sample to stretch. And I don't do it all the time. I'll do it like if I'm troubleshooting, basically. Like if I'm stretching a vocal or some shit, or I'm stretching something and I'm like, it just sounds shitty or like whatever, then I'll maybe try this as like a troubleshooting method, or I'll just try it like as like a theoretical interest. Like what would this sound like at that resolution if it was stretched, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
I mean, honestly,
I was just going to add to that. Otherwise, as we talked about before with the Nyquist theorem, 44.1 will produce up to 22,500 hertz, and no one's hearing goes that high. It's
no,
yeah,
that's not happening. That's dog territory for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
The only time I ever can really hear the difference is if it's recorded at that sample rate and it's a hi-hat. That's about it. If it's like a ride, every once in a while I can go, oh, okay, that sounds higher resolution to me because it was recorded and played back at that level. But the thing is most of the, not even most of the time, pretty much all the time, like you're never in that environment where you're going to perceive that, you know?
Yeah.
We're dealing with
and downsampling constantly, and like once you get to the distribution, it's like Spotify's playing back in like MP3 quality and everything. It's like, who gives a shit?
Exactly. Yeah. So I kind of feel the same way. I share that same kind of sentiment for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
And same with bit depth. Like the same thing. It's like I'll mostly just stay in 16 because I don't really need to be in anything else. Though I will, if I'm doing sound design or some shit like that, I'll put it in 32, or if I'm rendering stems, I'll usually render them at 32.
I usually do the mud pies at 32. But I mean, that's if usually I have a limiter in the end anyway. I'm not even really clipping, so I probably could get away with 24. Like, because if I wanted to do my concern is always if I end up doing a lot of post processing on the sample after, I might want it to be at 24. But even with that, like you can get away with 16. It's not going to be the end of the world, especially if you're doing like some kind of electronic music where it's already inherently digitally distorting and adding effects and stuff. You know,
and there isn't that much dynamic range anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's it's a lot more difficult if you're like mixing like, I don't know, like a blues track, or like if you're doing like something that has like really delicate recording and stuff. And I do that once in a while. I'll mix like, just for like, you know, I'll mix like I just mixed like a blues thing recently, and like it's just, you got to be more delicate with everything. You have more dynamics, you have more subtlety and in the way that the tracks have to be mixed, and I feel like the focal points of the track shift a lot more with like a lot of like instrument based stuff, because every player wants to have their stuff in the forefront at certain times. When I'm writing an electronic song, I usually find that I'm like, this is the focal point here, this is the focal point there, and drums and bass, and I'm good.
Yeah,
like that kind of thing.
Yeah. So my main concern with bit depth actually is the distortion thing with 32-bit is one of them, but my actual like main concern that I find comes up more than even that is it has to be 16-bit to be played on a CDJ most of the time. And I just don't want to risk like rendering out files that I might DJ in any other bit depth, because there's so many times when I've gone to, DJ a song or something like that, and then it's like, that file format is unsupported, and I'm like, well, that sucks, because I really wanted to play that track next.
That's happened to me. So, and if you don't check it, you're just like you're like, yeah, cool, and then you're like, right in the middle of your set.
Hell? Yeah,
that's happened to me at least like half a dozen times. Like, yeah, absolutely know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's so annoying too, because sometimes you're like, this song's great. You're like, I'm ready to do, primed to do it. Absolutely. Yeah, I just kind of idiot-proof it too, is the sense of like just making it 16-bit, making it work. Although I have in the past had some clients like insist, they're like, if you send me, I need the 24-bit versions too. I'm like, okay, no problem. You can go for it,
Yeah.
But I usually just try to play. I mean, 16 bits enough for me,
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. Well, yeah, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really glad that you reached out, and I'm really glad. I think, was it Dan Dirksen that put us in touch, or
I thought it was Nate Martin.
Might have been, yeah. Whoever.
Yeah,
put us
but
in touch.
I know it's Thomas from Danio told me, he's like, you should reach out to Bill, because I think Thomas did one of your tours in Canada.
He did, yeah. Actually, I'd like to have him on the podcast at some point. He's a great agent, a great manager.
He's just an amazing human being. Like,
yeah, he is.
He is a great agent and manager, but he's also just a sweet human being, and I appreciate Thomas's outlook on life in general.
Yeah,
it's just like somebody you talk to and you're like, wow, I should probably think more like this. I would feel better about myself and life and everything.
Yeah, he's really positive.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Extremely positive guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So no, thank you for having me. I've been a longtime listener as well. So and fan of your music. I play your music as well. I have a music podcast that I do just on like SoundCloud and I try to promote the 80 to 90 BPM range of bass music, and so I've played a few of your tracks on there.
Nice.
Just trying to. Well, I feel like there's so many podcasts out there that specifically focus on drum and bass or dubstep or like one particular genre, but this strange like 80 to 90 range that everyone has a different name for. I try to find it's very hard to find a place that curates that. So I try to do that on the show. That's kind of the purpose of it.
Right.
To curate that kind of area.
And what is that
music
called? What is that podcast
I
called?
just Woofax Radio podcast.
Okay, so and that's on a different SoundCloud account to your Woofax stuff?
No, you can just go on the Woofax one. It's on there. I have a playlist that has it all. I honestly, I thought about even my label, I don't even have a website for my label or anything. It's just all part of the artist page, because I only release my own music on my label. Like it's a vehicle for me to release I do collabs too, but it's just for me to put out my stuff. And honestly, I just thinking about having to handle the social media of like 4 different websites, because you
need to hire a guy eventually. Basically, is how it works.
Exactly, and I'd rather just keep everything just centralized for the time being anyway, until I start maybe releasing other artists on my label or whatever. But it's really just my label's really just this focus that I've been doing, kind of doing these weird. It's all 80 to 90 BPM stuff, and it's really kind of, I don't know where it would even fit, like on another label or something. I half the time I don't even really shop it around. I just kind of go, I'm going to put this out, and doing PK and working at PK is really like the focus in my life anyway for the time being. And now that the pandemic's over, I might think in the next year or so about like really foraying back into doing more music, because it really is the thing I love to do the most. And even just having conversations like this, like, is just it's really where the kind of my passion lies with talking about like face plants. Great. I don't know why, but I just love talking about stuff like that. So
yeah, I should have the Kilohertz guys on actually. I think
that would be awesome.
We've talked about it, and I think we plan to at some point. I'm going to make a note to hit them up.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Totally. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks so much. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you around at a show at some point, or hopefully we'll get to chat again at some point for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. And if you're ever up around this area, I'd be happy to give you a tour of the facility as well.
It's in Calgary, right?
Yeah, it's in Calgary. We, like I said, we just moved to a new facility. It's like around 50,000 square feet, and we rebranded, and we have a whole new way that we're selling the speakers now with our partners. We have an alliance with partnerships around North America, going into Europe and Asia. So it's really cool. There's a lot of like cool stuff going on there, and it's just fun. It's fun to tour. You can listen to your tunes on a big system in the demo room. So
totally. All right, man. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no worries, man. Have a good one.
You too. Yo, what's up? Thanks for listening to the Mr. Bill podcast. This show is produced and edited by Robert Fumo. You can get early access to the show by going to my website, MrBillsTunes.com, and paying me instead of Patreon. And remember to go rate and review on iTunes, or I'm going to come to your house and punch your dog in the throat, upper deck your toilet, and fuck your partner. Note, I may or may not do those last couple of things. You should probably just go rate it on iTunes or Spotify or whatever it is that you listen to the podcast on, because it really helps the podcast. But just know that it'll go a long fucking way to me not doing those things if you do go do that. So just putting that out there.